Hello everyone, my name is Lalit Karki and today I'll be discussing on a very simple and very interesting topic, and the name of the topic is education with a foresight. Actually what it means is we will eventually discover it within next 15 to 20 minutes what it actually means to have an education with a foresight. But let's look at what are the few things. Let's me take you through a brief overview. So the first thing that we'll be discussing in this is what are the current trend of education. The second thing is what subjects we pursue while we are in academics. And the next is what are our interests. And the final is that how whatever interests us can actually generate an employment or a kind of job for us. So going with the first is that I would like to share with you is what is the current trend of education in our country. If you look across the globe, and to the countries which are really developed, what we find is that their education system is slightly different than what is ours. How is that? In our education system, a student goes from the first grade to the 12th, then he completes his college, bachelor's, then master's. Or if you don't go for bachelor's or master's, he will have to go for a professional course, and after pursuing that he will actually get a job or get a skill or get an opportunity to learn a skill. But if you look the same thing in a country like USA or Netherlands, there what we find is that when the student is very young, he actually gets a kind of atmosphere where he can learn certain skills as well as go with the theory part. But in ours, that's not the case. So what's wrong with ours is that we go very slow and it gets really old when it comes about something practical. And this is a major drawback. Most of us in our when first year, second year, third year, we go slow. We say, okay, fine, we are studying right now. We've just completed our 12th. We'll go with college. Then we'll go with our masters. And eventually, we'll look what to do. And yes, that's how we go. And once we finish our masters, what happens? Oh my God, now I don't know anything. I see people who are really good and I don't know anything. So what I actually do is, I actually prepare for a government job. And then what are the else options? I prepare for a government job or I look for a job. And these are the two things. And when I fail at the two, or when I think both of them are futile, at the age of 26, 27 or 28, people begin their startup. Come with a business idea. So what I'm trying to say is that it's never too late. Yeah, I agree with that. But what if we would have begun that thing just when we just move out of school, moved out of colleges, not given it a long shot? Things would have been something entirely different. So how is this possible? Now let's look at the key steps. Okay, if we are going to get ourselves into something, the very first thing that we should be actually working on is that whether that thing interests me or not, whether that thing actually appeals to me or not. Am I just going for it just because it has some profit, or it's something, a venture that can generate a lot of profit? Is there some motive? Is there some motivation? Is there some interest that is behind it? Because that will ensure that we will persist in it even during the hard times. That's not generally possible in every case. Even if you in a company, if their things get hard, people generally leave because they have no vision. But the owner of the because he has a vision for it. So similarly, at a very young age, say at 12th or after completing our bachelor's, if we have interest in certain spheres, for example, you are a good photographer. So if you are a good photographer, you can go for various magazines, you can go for various companies at a very young age. That's through internships and other things. For example, if you are someone who loves to deal with agriculture, and you figure it out that there is a lot of space around you which is being actually exploited by the farmers. Rather, I should not use that word, but what I'm trying to say is that the farmers, they are using various sort of fertilizers to cultivate the land, and the production that they're getting out of it is not really good. So if you see it and you just want to say, oh, I love the soil, I love to play with the garden, I love to play with the plants, and there is a possibility that eventually if you start cultivation, if you get into it, that you'll get something useful out of it, and that's from where you will derive the concepts of organic farming. You will actually think, okay, there is an alternative option. So very first thing that we need to figure it out is that what really interests us, because if something interesting and some sort of motivation comes into something, we can persist in it. Once we start persisting in it, then eventually we will think of the economy that is linked around that interest. Now that's very crucial, because when something economic comes into the play, then the persistency will increase, and your survival into that venture will also increase. So the first thing that you have to ensure is that you really like it. The second thing that you have to see is that what are the economic activities that bind around that interest. Those economic activities, if you get into them, will not actually help you, not only help you, but the local peoples who are into it. For example, if you are getting into the farming and you bring in the concept of organic farming, what you will see is that there are many people, many farmers, many local people who will come into it, who will join you eventually, and who will actually go into that venture. And this sort of thing that we are getting, at a very early age. What we see in foreign countries, that those who come into startup and become successful at a very young age. And in our country also, people at 30, at 40 begin startup. Day before yesterday, I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was just on the front page, and it was regarding a lady who was into the dyeing of natural cloths. So if she can start that after getting married, after having children at 40, what's wrong with young youth, young children's, young people at the age of 20 or 22? Well, it requires a little bit of courage. In today's world, at present context, we have enough financial. It requires a good plan. It requires interest, and things will end up. So, education with a foresight means that when we are actually getting ourselves into, let's say, into a stream, it should actually land us somewhere where we can evolve. It should not actually just pack us. It should actually evolve us. It should actually take us a long way ahead. Thank you.